Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is a 30-minute chart of silver provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. We're still following the downtrending trend line that we have here. I've redrawn the line. You can see it's a little bit above this peak, significantly above this one, and it meets this one, and it meets the breakout, and you can see we have two tests. So although the trend line is still descending, we haven't penetrated it to the downside. We did make a minor new low and then rallied, so we still don't have resolution. The 33.10 price and 34.10 price, 34.50 actually, these are going to be the targets if we're moving to the upside. We're looking for a penetration now. It's going to have to be at 31.50 and then very close to 31.10 on the downside. If we roll over and go down, the MACD is approaching an overbought position on the 30-minute chart, so we could actually round down from here, and this is the main line we're going to keep watching tomorrow especially. Now let's go over to the question of the day from the forum, and that is from Utbansal. When and how to sell silver after financial Armageddon. Hi, Brother John F. I'm a regular reader of your blog and really appreciate your work that you've been doing, saving millions of personal savings and educating. I'm totally convinced about the coming collapse in Silver Shield. Here's my take. 1. Collapse of derivative markets or petrodollar. 2. Followed by collapse of silver paper market. 3. Followed by silver hockey stick. 4. Followed by collapse of financial markets across the world. My question is, after this Armageddon, how will we identify the time that when to start selling the silver we have accumulated and invest maybe in something else? Wealth cycle. I'm also based in India. Do you see any difference? I'm not into silver coins, but into silver bars. So another question about when to sell your silver. Now, I firmly believe that we're going to see a collapse of the world financial system, the petrodollar system, and a reorganization of that system. I'm not certain that there will be a gold-based, silver-based currency that comes out of this. I don't know what they're going to try to do, but I would say that if you have your silver coins and bars, that as I point out in my Office series, that there's really no point in selling them for dollars. The dollar is an unstable currency. It's a fiat currency. It's destined to go to zero. And if you decide to jump out of your silver real quick and trade it for dollars, the question is, what are you going to trade it for? You may be able to flip it for farmland or something like that, but there's inherent problems with that. So I really don't recommend selling your silver for dollars. I think you need to wait for the next system to come out. There's a lot of risk in real estate in the United States just because of legal encumbrances on real estate, not to mention property taxes and things like that. So if we get the true hit the fan scenario, a lot of people are predicting, of course, as they've said, gold and silver will be worthless if we're looking at some type of horrific collapse. But then again, hopefully if you're stacking silver, you're probably aware of many of the other things you need to stockpile, and you should be okay if you have a certain amount of cash, a certain amount of food, a certain amount of other things, and hopefully you can wait it out until a new system stabilizes, and then hopefully under a new system silver will begin to assume its correct role financially as a monetary metal, and even if it doesn't, it will at least reach its true value as far as an industrial metal, and it's, in my opinion, way below that price. Now, I've got a link here that I did. If you remember, in one of my recent videos, I mentioned that silver was, as far as an inflation adjusted price, was very low. My estimate was that silver is inflation adjusted below roughly 80 to 90% of its inflation adjusted high. Now, you can say that silver was in a tremendous spike in 1979. This is the year that I've chosen on this anecdotal price link here, and just for argument's sake, we'll say that yes, silver was in a bubble at that point in 1979, and $50 is too high of a number, so we'll just use $25, which is a better number if you take the averages of those 3 or 4 years at the top of that inflation period. So even if we use a $25 figure, then at $32, we're really just a small percentage above that price. But let's look at some of the other things that we have here real quick. You've got a federal spending. We're going to get into the federal spending here in a bit here. You've got federal spending of $504 billion. Now, I'm going to cover the recent Republican budget proposal, and it's roughly $3.5 trillion. So there's a sevenfold factor there. And you can look at your federal debt. You had about $829 billion. We're at roughly $16 trillion. So that's roughly a 20-fold factor. You can look at the cost of a new home. That's going to be more reasonable because of the recent crash. Probably just a 2 or 3-fold factor. The cost of a new car is not listed here, but my guess is it's gone up 5 or 6-fold. The cost of a stamp, that's a good 300% increase. Gas is at 86 cents in 1979. We're looking at nearly $4, so that's a 4, 5, 6-fold increase. Dozen eggs and a gallon of milk. So I've looked at some others. I don't have the charts here, but they were running anywhere from 5, 6, or 700% increases from 1979. So when you look at those prices for all of those things, and even if we factor in a $25 price of silver as the average during those years, then at $32 we're really only up about $7. So you're talking about maybe a fourfold, maybe 25-30% increase over that price. So you can see just by looking at these prices, which have risen anywhere from 4 and 5-fold to 10-fold above where they were in 1979. If we did 4 and 5-fold for silver, just using the $25 average, we're talking $100 to $125. If we do 10-fold, we're talking $250. So clearly silver is the most undervalued commodity, and there's a lot of others that I had here. A box of cornflakes and others are up 7 and 8-fold, and you can go and research the food items, but clearly silver is the lowest as far as inflation adjusted rises today. Silver is still the best buy as far as inflation adjusted highs. So I want to jump over to the story that came out about the budget today, and this is a story about the budget that the Republicans passed in the House. Now the news is telling us that it's going to be rejected and it's not going to pass, but I've spent a number of episodes talking about the ridiculous, insane positions and budgets of the Obama administration and Obama and his shenanigans. And so I think it's only fair to talk a little bit about the Republicans. So here we have this, to put it kindly, this joker, this Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, who's supposed to be a fiscal conservative. So you can see Mr. Ryan here is giving double thumbs up to his House budget that he passed. And let's take a look at the numbers here. You can see that the House Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan's budget is $3.53 trillion. Okay, you have to remember, as I've covered in a number of past episodes, that the tax revenues are pretty much frozen at about $2.2 to $2.3 trillion. So here we have a supposed conservative, supposedly a fiscal conservative, who has proposed a budget that is at least $1.3 to $1.4 trillion in the red. And that is just, in my opinion, an incredible outrage, and that the Republicans could try to claim that they're fiscal conservatives is just, it's utterly laughable. Now, the way they phrase this, of course, if we go down here, we'll find that they have what they've always done. They have projected budget cuts out 10 and 25 years. I think the number was 2035 that they're giving for a balanced budget, but of course this stuff is just a ridiculous joke. These people, whether they're on the quote-unquote right or quote-unquote left, the Democrats or Republicans, these people really are a bunch of jokers. They have no intent to balance the budget. If you remember my video I did on wimpy economics, and the idea was that I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's the basic concept that the Republicans are proposing. So they really have no intent of cutting anything. All of their cuts are projected out into the future, and they're cuts that are forced on to another administration, whether that's Republican or Democrat. It really doesn't matter. The main point is that your biggest fiscal conservative, this joker, this Paul Ryan, has proposed a deficit for the next budget of at least $1.4 trillion. So it's very clear that the Republicans and the Democrats have absolutely no intent whatsoever to even come close to balancing our budget. They intend to spend and borrow and destroy the currency. They have no fiscal sense of responsibility whatsoever. They obviously, if you look at what Ron Paul has proposed to do, he has said that he would cut $1 trillion from the budget immediately. Now, if you look at the proposed budget that Ryan has proposed, where we're talking about this $3.5 trillion, then if indeed we cut $1 trillion right off the top, we'd be fairly close. We're taking in tax revenues at 2.2, and that would bring the budget down to 2.5. So we'd be somewhere in the ballpark. We'd still be running $300 billion a year deficits. So we really need to just simply cut the budget in half. That's the easy solution, the simple solution. This $3.5 trillion, needs to be cut to 1.7 or 1.8 trillion, and that needs to be done immediately. That's a 50% across the board cut. That means we need to cut Congressman Ryan's pay, and we need to cut all federal workers by half, all defense spending by half, all entitlement spending by half, all government departments by half. Of course, as I've suggested, there are a lot of government departments such as the TSA, Homeland Security, the Education Administration, the Housing. All of those should really be eliminated. The Department of Energy completely eliminated across the board, and hopefully the CIA and those folks probably cut in half or more, maybe cut by 3/4. So these people have no intent whatsoever of balancing the budget. It's quite clear there's really not a dime's bit of difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. And honestly, if you're a fiscal conservative and you believe in conservative principles such as conservative and economics, balancing budgets, pay as you go, and things like that, then it's clear that the Republicans do not represent your interest, and they have no intent upon representing your interests. So really, if you're a fiscal conservative, I can't imagine why you would still be a Republican. The only people who are talking seriously about any type of fiscal restraint are the libertarians. So the Republicans have shown their colors here. They're cutting taxes on the rich, and I'm not saying that the rich don't pay their share. They do, but they shouldn't be cutting taxes on anyone unless they're cutting spending by more. And a very simple proposal, as I said, would be to simply cut all government spending across the board by 50%. So if the number is 16, make it 8. If the number is 100,000, make it 50. It's really very simple. If you want to balance the budget, you just simply cut government in half. So back to silver. We're rallying now, and I expect us at some point to rally very violently. Ben Bernanke has said that he's probably going to do a lot more stimulus in the future, and the Republicans have indicated that they are on board with the Democrats in that they believe that they are going to spend us into oblivion. They have no intent of cutting. Neither party has ever had any intent of cutting. Everything they do is simply a charade for political cover. And we are rapidly on the road to financial ruin, and the only protection you have is the precious metals, and silver is going to be the best investment. And we'll talk to you next time.